Well, it doesn't matter if you've been on your back for the last 5-6 days and you're feeling like 40% now. Once you hear that music, it gets you up every time. That's second only to our original music. Trying to get the rights to that Animal song, Dialogue with Dozie, Monday night, 8 p.m., Facebook, YouTube Live. Hi, y'all. Thank you for hopping on tonight. Tonight's going to be one of our most important shows that we've ever done. Talk more about that in a second. First, we want to do tonight's dedication. We dedicate tonight's show to dear brother beloved Daryl Bars. Daryl was a minister, a pastor. He was a scholar, and he was a writer and an entrepreneur. I had our paths crossed while I served in law enforcement and as a pastor in Daytona. And he followed in the footsteps of his father and followed into the ministry. We served together. He was a younger guy than I am. And I saw him accept his call into the ministry and saw him go head first into preparing himself, finishing up at Bethune-Cookman and heading to Emory University, where he did his theological training, Master's of Divinity, pastored several churches, and he settled into a different type of career to just show that God can use his ministers, his ambassadors in any way that God sees fit to do so. Daryl ended up being a publisher. He published a magazine that had a fantastic following. In fact, 40 years he and I had not talked. We just monitored each other on Facebook. Occasionally we may have spoken on Facebook, but we had not spoken. And about 4 or 5 months ago, he called me in an attempt to do an article on what we were doing down here with voter registration and so forth. And we never got back. Well, on Valentine's Day, he posted. 2 days after Valentine's Day, he posted, and apparently he died right after that post he did on the 16th of February. I just found out the other day and was just totally shocked as they were planning a memorial service for him right there at Allen Chapel by Bethune-Cookman. People like Daryl Bars made the world a better place because he was an inclusive individual, a loving individual, an outreaching individual, and a very strong service to individual. And we bless God for him. We're praying for his family, but tonight we dedicate this show. We know his spirit is resting in peace, but for the solace and prayers of his families, we dedicate this to good journalism, is what you were also about. We shared it together. The night's dialogue dedicated to our brother, Daryl Bars. So tonight, we have a show that we have, it has been brewing with me for a little minute now, and I was just trying to see the right way to frame it. And, I told you that coming out of the holidays and the celebrations of Black history and so forth, we were going to take the gloves off and deal into real political, social, cultural issues. And I said that to say this, we're going to do them even tonight. We're talking about racism, the racist rhetoric and the racist policies that's being enacted by Republican politicians and being spewed by individuals on the other side. The question that many of us are asking is this simply for political gain to appeal to a political base? Because if that's the case, that's sad. Or even worse, is it a desire to see our country turn back to our shameless past, in which I grew up and remembered so much about? Got a couple of friends today. First, let me acknowledge my dear brother, Anthony Burrell. I have really been down. I was on the couch as recent as 30 minutes ago, and he is signed on to co-host the show. And if he has become the host, he'll do that. He knows how to do that. He's Living in Christ Broadcast Ministries every Monday night from 6 to 7 on YouTube and on Facebook Live. And he came by to be with us tonight to help us. Amp, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, Dr. Varner, and trusting that God's going to grant you that complete healing, because you know what I got for you.
All right. We'll talk about lies and fantasies later, fellas. Talking about golf. Brother Ludwig Luck and Brother Christopher Hughley, who we just kind of like reunited. We just met in studios. They have come over to help bring clarity to this question. How you guys doing tonight?
Pastor Dozie, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to participate in this conversation, and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you all.
Pastor Vonna, thank you for allowing me to participate in this meeting, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Brother Luck, you're making me feel bad. You're dressed like possibly I should be tonight, but I'm just dragging myself in front of the camera tonight. So no, two very special. Thank you. Two very, very special. My cousin, we've lived ministry has taken us kind of all over the country, and I've never lived anywhere where I had close family. And we moved down here to South Florida, and my cousin, Dozie Grimes, is with us. My mom's first cousin. It was just such a pleasure to be here. And Daisy, thank you for hopping on tonight, sis.
Only for you. Only for you, because I told you earlier, I was at a school board meeting. I've been fighting folks there since 5:30, ran out of there, having to clarify because I am a Black Republican, and had to clarify what all of that means now, because some people misunderstand what being a Republican is and what being Black is. So, but because it's you, I said, let me come on, because this is going to be for family. I'm going to do this for you. So I left that meeting with a whole bunch of folks upset because I had to tell them about code words that they use, and we use them a lot today to justify what the real problem is, racism, and nobody wants to admit it. So I'm glad to be here. I'm sure this is going to be an interesting conversation.
Well, thank you.
From a real Republican, not a Trumpeter, not a new Republican. Work for a Republican administration. Work for the former congressman in South Florida, E.K. Shaw. So
Okay, we're going to talk about that a little further. Some of the stuff I say to you on camera. I would be totally remiss. This is my dear brother. This is the biggest panel we've had in quite a while. But a question like this, a panel like this, we could not have without my dear brother, retired Pastor Donnie Dutcher out of Freeport, Illinois. We served together in Sterling, Illinois. We did joint Martin Luther King services every year. One year we go to his church. We have great food. The next year we come to Macedonia in February, it's always snow and cold. And we tried to have good food over there. Donnie, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing very well, and I'm honored that I'm here. Been invited. And I hope by God's grace I'll be able to contribute something meaningful.
Well, in the introduction, I didn't say to everybody, Donnie he's Dr. Donnie Dutcher, but the doctor I could be a doctor had I finished my degree, but Donnie is a bona fide scholar, and we're going to appreciate your scholarship and everything that you're about tonight. Thank you, Donnie.
Well, I'll use a quote from Saint Benedict, who said, whenever we set out to accomplish something good, pray insistently to the Lord that he bring it to completion. So that's my prayer for tonight, that God uses me.
So I told you he was a scholar, and that's what we have here. Okay, let's go to the tape, and we'll begin tonight with the tape of Nashville, a recent protest that was done in Nashville. Do you have that tape, Toy? Could we push that, please? And we don't have labels. I don't have labels, so it is a tape of Nashville, Tennessee.
Jews will not replace us. Jews will not replace us.
That is not the one I really wanted to do. It's the other one. It's the other one. Do you have the other tape that where we have white supremacists walking and Okay. All right. So we will make it from that. Okay. All right. So let's just start with where we are. The show asks, are we the racist stuff that's being said, and possibly we might even have to question whether or not we think things that are being said. I heard Daisy talk about dog whistles. If things that are being said, if we think they're actually racist, really racist, or just something that's a perception is racism to minorities, and let me just say tonight, when we talk about racism, we're not just talking about African Americans. We're talking about Asians, particularly Hispanic, with the words that are being spewed towards them with the border concerns, and we're talking about everybody that's not an Anglo-Saxon male or Anglo-Saxon in America. So we're asking the question: what is this? The rhetoric and the policies, and we're going to get to some policies in a second. I really want that tape, and I'm trying to find it. Are they actually? Is it a political game that politicians are using this stuff and saying these things, or is it reality? They really want to see us go back to where it was. The tape that I've really been looking so hard, I'm a little heartbroken because I really wanted that tape. The tape that I was looking for showed. It showed protests. Okay, I have it if I can get it to Toya. It showed protests in Nashville, Tennessee. Okay, I'm going to send it back because I just think that's vital to tonight's conversation. So, Madam Producer, I'm sending that to you right now because that really was the prop that we really need to introduce the show with. And I just sent it back if you are able to just play it. If not, we'll work through it. It showed protesters, white supremacists in Nashville, Tennessee. Perhaps most of you all don't need the graphic, but for people who are not news hounds like most of us probably are, this was 2 weeks ago, one Saturday afternoon. White supremacists marched the streets of downtown Nashville, Tennessee, in the broad open daylight. And it kind of took some of us who remember what Klan rallies look like and Klan marching in our cities. Klans covered their faces up with hoods. These cowards covered themselves up with masks, and they were covered from head to toe. You couldn't discern who they were. Do you think that has been energized by all of the rhetoric and the policy that has come down since 2016? I'll throw that out to whoever wants to grab it.
Pastor, I want to address that first, and I just want to say, thank you for bringing this question, because here's the thing. I understand that is the question of this interview or this session, but the premise is, as far as suggesting that it's that racism doesn't happen. I understand it happens. I see it, the micro racism, sometimes from people I know, whatever the case may be. But what I want to be careful for tonight is suggesting that it's particularly coming from one side or the other. So that's kind of what I wanted to address first. But in regards to what happened in the past 2 weeks that you referred to, a lot of these individuals that I've noticed are protesting and reference what's been happening in Israel, the support that is happening for the Jewish community, and there's being pushback. Obviously, there's the Free Palestine approach, but I did also notice in the past past couple of weeks, there are groups like you just mentioned that is protesting against the Jewish community. But I wouldn't say that it's because it's particularly against the Black community in this regards, but I just wanted to clarify that point. So it can be very convoluted in terms of like what's going on. I know that the political climate, as you just mentioned, in 2016, but we really have to be careful on how we target some of these issues and topics.
Let me clarify. So your contention is that they are not protesting these white self-avowed white supremacists, and that name speaks for itself. This is not a racist protest. This is them protesting against what's going over, the atrocities right now in the Gaza Strip. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. And so it can be convoluted because you have to take an effect for what happened on October 7th, that some of these obviously white racist Nazis groups that's out there. I know, I see it. I'm Jewish myself, just to let you know, I'm wearing a kippah. But the thing is, I know some of these groups are protests that are happening, but I just want to be, let's be careful on understanding on why these racist protests are happening. And that it's basically, we have to be very understanding that these racist protests should not happen, but at the same time on how we direct that to which group they're protesting against. And that's why I want to clarify.
Okay, anybody want to grab that and respond?
Well, we have candidates, and it's quite honestly, I appreciate what you said about not being one side or the other, but I would tell you that here in Illinois and Iowa and Wisconsin and Michigan, as in our upper Midwest, we have multiple candidates who are declared and avowed members of the Nazi Party and otherwise, and they're running on the Republican ticket. So it isn't, in that context, we don't see that kind of behavior or positioning of what they believe. We don't see that from the Democratic side, quite honestly, and at least not in the upper Midwest. Maybe you all have that down there, but problems here are on the Republican side, in that kind of Nazi white supremacist orientation. We have members of our sheriff's department who are members of the Proud Boys. I'll leave it at that right now.
Let me say, and my role tonight really was to introduce stuff and to get the conversation between the panel, and the way I'm feeling, I really had no desire to really get overly involved. But I'm gonna pose this to you, Bro Christopher. And if it seems like I'm challenging that statement, I think really I am. I'm kind of signing on with Donnelly. If the Black Panthers, and maybe you guys are not old enough to really remember what the Black Panthers really stood for. I know they have been demonized by white America, but the Black Panthers really did outstanding things in our communities. They would have, in fact, many governmental programs were patterned after how they saw the Black Panthers ministering to our community. But if the Black Panthers, if there was a just a hypothetical, if the police maliciously shot a Black person down in an affluent white neighborhood, and as a matter of protest, the Black Panther Party was out in the next week in mass protesting, marching down the streets, wouldn't that white upper class community think that was a threat and an affront to them? Wouldn't you think so? As we as minorities do, after seeing, the uprising and emboldenedness of people to do what they're doing. Just let me know.
In the defense of the Republican Party, I'm gonna say this: you got to think about this. You have many people that are either independent, Democrat, or Republican that are racist, and a lot of them, they blend into these different parties and they have different agendas. So you can't really signify and single out and say that the Republican Party is racist, because if you think about it, Donald Trump has done a lot for the Black community. He's one of the only presidents that gave money to the HBCUs.
Woo! Woo!
Okay,
Okay.
so
They-
but what I'm saying is, it's like, I understand that this is a big issue, because it is. I saw the video. It's devastating. It's crazy, but I don't really feel that this can be targeted to the Republican Party, because, like I say, once again, you have people that have entangled themselves within the party that may be racist. You have
Can
people
I
that are
join in
Democrats.
on this, Dozie?
Yeah, let him finish. And before you join in, after he finishes, let me just say this as a disclaimer. This was, and my full appreciation to Brother Chris, who is the not Chris Hughley, but Chris Mullins, is that his name? Chris Marino, who is the
Broward Republican Executive Committee chair.
He's the
Broward Republican Party. When I wanted to frame this discussion, I went to him, but it's not to be a partisan discussion. One party leans more liberal, one leans more right wing. Unfortunately, we attribute a lot of this to that right wing leaning group. So go ahead and finish your conversation, but Chris.
I mean, that's all I really have to say. I just want to single out that you have many people that are intertwined in different parties that have different agendas. And just because you see a set of people that are marching and participating in a rally does not mean that they specifically come just from the Republican Party. Just, we all feel that way. We don't all feel that way. You have many of us that don't feel like that.
Yeah, it's not. We're not saying that they were Republicans. We're saying that they're white supremacists.
Okay, so where do we get the idea that in that white supremacy that is geared to the right wing?
Well, you likely because I choose a lot not to call this guy's name, but you mentioned the former president, and a lot of this stuff popped up when he rose to power in 2016. Silly me, thinking that after 2012, re-electing a Black president who I'm sure most of us thought we'd never see in our lifetimes. After electing him, and you're thinking America has turned a corner, 2016, the election of 2016 seemingly turned everything. All of this racist activity may have been more undercover. Now it's right in our faces. So he happens to be a Republican, but I'm not attributing everything. I know I know you. I know. I just met Brother Love. I know he's not racist. You know, his brother say he's Jewish. I get that.
Right.
My cousin, I hope you're not racist, Daisy. I don't attribute every Republican, just like every Democrat is not homosexual, and every Democrat is not left leaning on every decision. So it's not a Democrat Republican. It's racist and non-racist. Go ahead, Daisy.
Okay, you're right. It's not, because I've been a Republican probably 50-some years. And I've had people to tell me, why won't I leave the Republican Party? Because I know the difference and I understand politics. I worked in politics. But there's no doubt that Donald Trump has given this country the approval that is okay to be the way we are now. There is no civility. We think we can say and do what we want to do. We can disrespect any culture. And we think the white Anglo-Saxon people think that this country belongs to them. And I have a real problem with the Republican Party now as it stands nationally, because I don't think that they have stood up to the fact that we are not as Republican racists. And many of them who are speaking from a national level in Congress and the Senate, they use code word that are borderline racism. Even here in our local government, they do the same thing. So I think I have to speak out as a Republican to say this is not who we are, and we should be speaking out and not defending when we see uh, these Nazi groups, these white supremacists, and all of these groups out there saying these horrible things. And we as Republicans are not bold enough to come and stand up and say it's wrong. And many of the politicians don't do it because those are votes. Those are votes. And they are looking to that group for votes. And we need to be honest about it. Donald Trump ain't no more Republican than my mama was. And I'm going to tell the truth. Donald Trump is an actor. And for us as Republicans to defend this man who's unethical, has no integrity, has not done anything but divided this country, and for us as loyal Republicans to defend that foolishness, he's insulting. And for us to let young people think that that's who we ought to look up at this country is a total disgrace. That is not who we are as a country, and we should not defend it. And there are Republicans who are good Republicans who are fighting every day to say this is not right. And I hate to disagree with my brother. I know they're young. Maybe they haven't ever lived through segregated times. Maybe they haven't understood what racism is, but it's out there. And the Republican Party is, or the Democratic Party either. I can say that too. They're not standing up and speaking out against it. And it is racism in this country. And Donald Trump has made it, what's the right word, Dozie? The preacher, somebody. Donald Trump has made it okay to be that way. Donald Trump has made it okay to be that way. And, you know, let me give you an example of why I said about Donald Trump. And why, since he brought up about HBCUs, because that little mess he did won by 2 cents. And I graduated from HBCU. But everybody got on this case last week, or the last couple of weeks, with the situation in Atlanta, Georgia. That was not about her sleeping with that man. And we all fell for it. And everybody was talking, oh, this should happen, she should happen. That was not about that. That was about to defer that trial. They had a brilliant black woman who was a prosecutor and was taking Donald Trump down, and they did whatever they could. So they decided to use that as a way to get her off the case. We done had presidents who done slept around, and we ain't never said they need to be president. We, the Republican Party. The Republican Party, our state Republican chair was having a threesome, and we didn't come out and say that was wrong. So let's not play games here as Republicans. I mean, I Reverend, pray for me, Reverend Burrell and the other ministers. Pray for your sister. Because I get tired of us playing games as people in this country. And when I see children being lost, people are hungry, people can't afford housing and all of this. And we around here with this kind of foolishness, with a state prosecutor and the governor taking people down because they don't follow him. But he won't deal with the insurance rate in this country, and people are losing house insurance. He won't deal with those. Let me shut up and let somebody else. So you see, I am passionate about this. I work with E. Clay Shaw. E. Clay Shaw was one of the best Republican congressmen we had. And I saw him walk across the aisle to the Democrats when it was good for that constituents in Broward County. I saw him vote against the party when he voted against apartheid. I saw him vote for Martin Luther King's birthday because he knew it was the right thing to do. And he did not vote party line. And he was a diehard Republican. And those who've been in Broward County for a long time will remember because he was a mayor of the city of Fort Lauderdale. Reverend Burrell, pray that I shut up right now.
Let me do this. We're going to play the Donald Trump, and this is not the Donald Trump show. And thank you all, Daisy. That energy has energized me because I promise you, I was lying flat on my back 45 minutes ago. What we're going to do, we got comments from Henry and Marcus, and we're going to answer those comments on the other side of the break. But what we're going to do is we're going to play the tape, the first tape that you started playing, Madam Producer, And then right after that tape, play President Trump's, former President Trump's tape. We'll go to break. We'll do our midway section because we got to get Pastor Burrell here, and we'll come right back and pick it up on the other side.
Pray for me, Reverend Burrell.
Pray for me too.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
Okay, let's hear former President Trump's reaction to that.
Very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me.
Okay. We'll go to break and we'll discuss that on the other side of the tape. Other side of the tape. So you usually hear me talking about how good Go Giga World will make you look. And I even intended to tell them to keep me off camera as much as possible. And that still might be an advisable thing for our viewers and our guests tonight, because I promise you, I just drug myself off the bed after about 5 days. GoGigaWorld.com got all of your virtual needs. Web building, all of those things, they got you. Give them a shot. GoGigaWorld.com. They're producing this show right now. That's GoGigaWorld.com. It kind of escaped me during the midst of everything that this was Women's Observance Month. And we want to just take time and just observe one of the greatest the greatest woman that has ever graced this world. Do we have our voiceover?
Legacy of Mother Teresa. What? As we celebrate Women's History Month, it's essential to honor the remarkable legacy of Mother Teresa, whose unwavering dedication to compassion and service transcends time and continues to inspire generations. Throughout her life, Mother Teresa exemplified the true spirit of empowerment by advocating for the marginalized, particularly women in society. Her founding of the Missionaries of Charity in 1950 provided a platform for women to actively engage in humanitarian work and leadership roles, breaking down the societal barriers and empowering them to make a tangible difference in the lives of others. Mother Teresa's profound commitment to serving the poorest of the poor and her belief in the inherent dignity and strength of every individual continue to resonate today, reminding us of the transformative power of love and compassion and selflessness. As we reflect on her extraordinary life and legacy, let us be inspired by her example to strive for kindness, empathy, and empowerment in our own lives and communities. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. That's real. It would be a shame for us not to say Mother Teresa is one of the greatest saints of all times. No colors, no racism. No, she just was about people. Pastor, go ahead and pick us up. And the night is not the Donald Trump show. It just so happens that he's a big, intricate part of why we're having this discussion. I think a lot of the policies we're going to discuss in a minute with DeSantis and all of those things are because of Donald Trump and what he has meant. But just pick it up, if you would, please.
Well, first of all, let me thank you so much. I know how rough it's been for you these last few days for assembling such a great aggregation of knowledgeable people. And I'm just glad that we can have dialogue about this. I got to be honest, I fall down along the similar lines to Sister Dozie in that I know what it means to be born and raised in this country. I'm a proud son of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I've had people tell me that Virginia was not in the South. I said, okay, it may not have been in the South, but the Capital Confederacy was there. That's South enough for me. And when you have lived this, you know, when you first were trying to find the video you wanted to find from Nashville, When you put that on, when I first saw it, I said, that's not Nashville, that's Charlottesville. You know, that's my home state. And it's so real. I mean, we don't have time enough tonight. I too, Sister Daisy, graduated from an HBCU, Virginia Union University in Richmond, Virginia. And I grew up in a time when there's a famous street in Richmond called Monument Avenue. And Monument Avenue had statues of Robert E. Lee and Jeb Stuart and Stonewall Jackson. You could honor Civil War heroes. Amen. You can't find statues of Nazis in Germany today. But boy, we were littered with them all throughout the South. And I make this a point about Richmond because one of our favorite sons, of course, is Arthur Ashe. Arthur Ashe won the U.S. Open and also won Wimbledon. Now, y'all, you don't get any higher than that in the tennis world. And I saw people with such vitriol and venom who opposed wanting a statue erected to the honor of Arthur Ashe. This gentleman is from your town. It looked like you would want to honor him. You would want to embrace him. But, you know, put a statue anywhere, but you ain't putting it on Monument Avenue. And so these are the kind of things that personally I have lived through. You know, when I started school in the first grade, Brown versus Board of Education was passed 1954. And when I started school in 1965, Brown versus Board of Education, Supreme Court decision 1954, said that we should integrate school with all deliberate speed. Well, I don't know how going 11 whole years and still hadn't been done. And long story short, the schools in my home county were not integrated until 1970, which was my 5th grade year. So I was a part of a group that was a guinea pig in this result, in this sense. My 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade year, I went to the all-white school, even though we still had the all-black school. So I've seen this. I've lived this, you know, and you can tell me all this and all that, and you know what I'm saying? Old saying says, if it looked like a duck, got a beak like a duck, got webbed feet like a duck, and quack like a duck, it's a duck. You try to make it anything else you want to. And that's where we are today.
Brother, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to ask Pastor Donnelly and Daisy. Thanks, Pastor, and Daisy to respond to you. I want to ask you, because, and I want to say, to our audience tonight, we've been given permission to run to 9:30 because this panel is so big and so vast. And if you have to go, we understand. I'm talking to the panel, not guests, because we engage you for an hour, and we appreciate your spirit of cooperation. But I'm gonna ask you, bro, and again, tonight's show is about promoting dialogue. I think we pretty well set a predicate that racism exists, and it has been, what's the word, Daisy? Donnie, exasperated? What is the word? Say it for me.
I don't know. You got to ask Reverend Burrell because I'm
exasperated. It has been.
Well, that's you're throwing your hand up in the air.
It has been.
No,
it has
done
been
that.
encouraged. I'll just say something I do know.
Oh, irritated, exacerbated.
Yes,
exacerbated. Okay.
It has been done that the last 8 years, and I think that's basically undeniable.
But hadn't evaporated.
So
they don't want us to believe they don't want us to believe that there is such a thing as racism in this country. Because if we start believing that, they really will use us then, you know.
Brother, I think you have seen a real strong predicate set that is almost undeniable, and that racism is come. What has happened is that it's come to the forefront again.
Yeah.
We thought it was gone, but it's come to the forefront. Go ahead and respond to that. Are perceptions off, or what do you think?
So I'm glad that we're having a discussion because, and I appreciate everybody's, take on what's going on in this country. Dozie, I appreciate your input in this, and as well as everybody else. And I'll say this: look, I did vote for Trump in 2016. I will vote for him in 2020, and then also I will vote for him again this year in 2024. Now, I'll say this. I understand where you're coming from. I speak to people in the Black community, Hispanic community, all communities. And Donald Trump is the type of candidate or person that either love him or like him, or you understand where he's coming from. But that doesn't mean that you condone some of the things he said. I'll say that. Now, with that being said, what I stated earlier in the session was we have to be understanding on careful how we point some of these blames or these issues, because it can be convoluted. And what I did not hear, although we've mentioned Trump many times, we did not address the policy that Biden has put in place or actually promoted while he was in the Senate for segregation. So we tend to look at the media, we tend to look at what's going on there, regurgitate that. But a lot of people don't look at, when we talk about history, what Biden has done. So Biden, I would say, is the racist. But again, I don't want to be bombastic in that way, but we have to be fair and honest in that conversation, because when you look at the segregation policies, when you look at, he used the N-word, and this is actually public records. He used the N-word in actually public settings and meetings. You can go back. I don't have the links there, but if you Google it, you can see it for yourself. But it's interesting how that gets covered up because Biden is the right type of racist, and because he's a Democrat, it doesn't get promoted. But again, this is not a justification or excuse to give a pass to Trump and some of these things he said. But I just wanted to be fair in terms of addressing both, and so that's how I just want to leave it there and see what everybody's thoughts on that.
Donnelly, you and Daisy, I want y'all to respond, and you too, Pastor Pereira, and Chris, we want you all to respond to this, but I'm going to have to say this. That response is deflect, and with all due respect, we're talking about, and tonight is not a Donald Trump show. That show will be Weekend Phoenix, because I want to know, why does a 4-time indicted, twice impeached, unhinged, immoral, can't pay any bills, now whining because he can't put up his $500 million bond after he has been determined to be a rapist by a judge in the court of law. How does half of America support this kind of person, or support a person who is likely or could likely be set down in whatever manner a legal system would set him down if there's a conviction? I want to know that. Right. But let me just finish, and I'll give you ample time to respond. Barack Obama would not have been given one iota of, if he had said anything that sounded racist, the Secret Service would have to work overtime in this country to prevent him from the Proud Boys, the white supremacists, the skinheads, and everybody on the right who has come out of the hills of everywhere to demonstrate their true colors in the last 8 years. But here's my question. You're talking about Biden. I didn't even want to make this about Trump, even though Trump is one who I think is singly responsible. And I'm still trying to determine this, but I host a show with my brother, who's not here tonight. We did a show a couple years ago where we say, is Trump a racist, or does he play into the base? That's the question we're asking now, but it's not just Trump, it's the little Trumpies, all of his little disciples, like that clown, Governor Despicable and all of those. But you have deflected into Biden. Biden, I'm not here to defend him for what he has done in the past, apologize about. I go by the answer. The proof is in the pudding. And in the pudding, he has a black female vice president. He has the most diverse of any president in history. Not just, he almost has doubled, and I'm not talking about just African Americans. He has women, he has Asians, he has we used to say indigenous people. He had his administration reflects all of that. Everybody gets a chance to repent and to be redeemed. And so we're talking about one person who is single-handedly not just blown a whistle, not just done an N-word before it was in the proper context of quoting that because that's what you're referring to. It's a quote that he's doing. Now we don't use the word in a quote. That's what he did. But we're not talking about. We're talking about today one person, or we're talking about a whole contingent of people that have opened the doors for racism to be where it is. I want your response.
I'm glad you brought it up, because every time I bring up Biden, everybody wants to say, no, we don't want to talk about Biden. But I think that's what I'm addressing, because the thing is, we don't want to be open and fair and balanced. We always seem to point it at Trump or the right, but it's not. When we point out, like, hey, it's the left or Biden is actually have done some of these things, we want to switch the direction on that. But hey, you know what? That's fine. I get it. It happens. But I want to address this and say this. In terms of some of the policies that I would say Republican policy or bipartisan policy that has impacted and been beneficial to the Black community has happened under Trump's administration. I do want to mention that there was the First Step Act. The First Step Act actually did help a lot of the reduce the mandatory sentencing that impacted the Black community. So a lot of these individuals had their sentences reduced, or actually were able to go home and be able to be released from jail. Also, at the same time, you have historic funding. I won't say historic, but at the same time, restored in permanent funding for HBCUs. Whereas in the past, HBCUs had to go and request these funds, whereas President Trump was able to actually not only just restore it, but also increase it, the funding by 14% for the HBCU colleges and universities. Also, at the same time, when we look at some of the policies that has happened under the Trump administration, it has benefited the Black community. However, I understand his character and some of the things he said. A lot of people want to focus on that because nobody's disagreeing with his policy. But again, I'm not justifying his his demeanor or what he said. I can understand that, and I hear what people are saying. But in that same token, when I address that, hey, Biden has did or said some of these things, we don't want to address it. And like you just said, everybody has a chance to redeem themselves, whatever the case may be. But hey, look, even now, then there's some racial slurs that doesn't get picked up by the media. Either when you talk about coverage by the media or this conversation, if I were to bring up anything negative about Biden, as everybody was quick to note, oh, we don't want to talk about that. And that's this. I don't think that's fair, but that's my response.
I have not said anything about let me go ahead. First of all, I can put all of them in a paper bag and they may drop out because both parties have some problems. So I'm not defending the Democratic Party, but I'm saying the party that I'm affiliated with, I have concern. And
fair enough.
If you wanted to go back to all of this started, Dozie, am I on?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, let me share something that I think. All of this started when Obama was elected president of the United States. White folks in this country and conservative folks woke up and said, oh my gosh, we have elected a Black man. Now, the Koch brothers at that time met. See, they don't tell all these Republicans all this stuff. They met and say this will never happen again, and he will not be elected twice. Well, that messed them up. And then they met again. There is a group that meets to try to run this country politically and say who's going to get in and who's going to get out. One of them is the White Evangelical Church, and I can give you some books to read on that. And then we elected Donald Trump. And Donald Trump got elected by Make America Great Again, the mega movement. And I don't know if you young Republicans know what that really means, what the underlying tone it means. Let's make America white again.
That's right.
But that's what it meant, because if you look at our history in America, it ain't, and it's the best country in the world. Let me clarify that. America offers all kinds of opportunity, but we can't say that America has done everything right, because it has not. And what nothing great for Black people, when we talk about Make America Great Again, back in the old days when I came up with Reverend Burrell and some of the other, because you never experienced having to sit in the back of the bus. You never experienced having old books, not a new book, because your books that you were educated with came from white schools where they had tore our page and put the N word in it and all of that. You never had to go downtown and drink out of a fountain that said white water or black water, colored water. You never lived that experience. I did. So I don't like anybody tell me about Make America Great Again. You go to the Native Americans. What was America great about for them when we came over here and took this country for them, made the trails of territory? You know about that? What we did in this country. So when you tell people who have been denied that this is the president who's running, this man is running for a country, and he said, Make America Great. Look who he got on his team. Look who started following him. Racist people, Nazi lovers, people who wanted to take this country back to what it was when it was not the best. And I'm going to tell you this. I don't know why people want to follow this man, but I tell you what I think about it. And I'm at an age where I can say what I want and not have to apologize at 75 years old, because I've been out here a long time. It's like Jim Jones. Sometimes we won't understand. How many folks follow Jim Jones and he convinced them to take poison? If you tell people the same lie over and over, they'll start believing it. And that is what's happening now with Donald Trump. He's not intelligent. He says the same thing, and he makes those who are racist feel important. He made those who have less than feel important, and they jump on that bandwagon. And they drink, and I tell them all the time, they're drinking the Kool-Aid.
Brother Christopher, Daisy, you said what I really I'm gonna lead into. Before I start, Brother Hughley, I wanna, Madam Producer, would you please do the Taylor Greene, Marjorie Taylor Greene video?
I know a ton of white people that are as lazy and sorry and probably worse than Black people I know.
Do you see that is the attitude, Brother Chris, that's prevalent, and I'm not attributing that to any. I'm not attributing that to any political party. It just happened that she's a member of another party, of the Republican Party. But I'm not. Racism is not exclusive to any party. I've been around long enough to know that. Daisy just took my thunder. We knew what it was like to Hemming Park in downtown Jacksonville, which was the X-Handle Saturday, where Blacks were beaten unmercifully. Mr. Jones has been an annual visitor to our show to talk about that event. He has a Crip. He walks with the Crip now. And we know that. I know what it's like. You couldn't go to the businesses there. You had to go to the back of the bus, and then you had to go sit you couldn't sit at the lunch counter. I remember that. I remember how fearful my mother was when I first got the opportunity to go into town and sit at that Woolworth lunch counter. I understand all that. The water fountains, all that, those are not images. Those are realities. The paper books that she's talking about, that happened. We went to schools that happened to. So when we talk about racism, all we're saying is we're going to be vanguards if we don't go back to it. And we would like to have a kind of enough where we're not pointing fingers at any individuals. We're trying to say, how can we stop this? What you just heard on the screen, how can we stop this from manifesting in our society today? Brother Chris, go ahead, and I'm going to ask Pastor Burrell and Brother Dr. Dutcher to respond to you.
So listen, I totally understand. I get where you're coming from. And like Brother Luck said, there are things that he has said that I don't agree with. I'm not going to lie. And there are things that I have concerns and issues with myself. But at the end of the day, you have some people that are in the party or in any party that have the means of doing the right thing and want to see the right thing happen on both sides. Granted, things were said, things were addressed, actions happened. I cannot deny that. However, we have to change that narrative on both sides of both parties. That's what I have to say. Because at this point, you all have brought to the forefront what we've all have seen. And we all have passed our judgment on that. And I can't really change that.
Yeah, Pastor, may I continue that conversation or that conversation?
Sure.
So let me say this. Early on, I was speaking to I guess your producer that was handling this before. So I was sharing with them that my parents are from Haiti, and they came to the United States obviously for a better future. And it's obviously the American dream that we all hear about, that people wants to come to the United States. And it's not to dismiss like the negative history that America has had, but I'll say this: growing up, life wasn't easy. I remember having to leave South Florida because Haitians wasn't necessarily treated so well, and this is within the Black community, mind you. But nevertheless, we moved to Central Florida, where I was raised and went to school there. So, in terms of being able to grow up in times where we were actually on food stamp. This is back in the days when it was paper color or paper money or color paper money. But my father was able to start his own business as well as my mother. And between them two, they're able to put myself, my three siblings through school, through, put a roof over our head, give us food. And the thing is like the opportunities that my parents had as immigrants from Haiti, I can't imagine if having a family today under the current conditions in the economy or the opportunities that we have or lack thereof to be able to be successful. Because right now, back then, I understand the perspective is different in terms of our life. No, I did not live through the times of Jim Crow or segregation or whatever the case may be. But the thing is, prospectively, where I have lived and I can see the progress that this country has had, we're still continuing that progress. But at the same time, we have to address racism where they are, but at the same time, understand that policies do matter. And the policies that I've seen that have been under President Trump has been beneficial for Black Americans. And that's the reason why, I am a Republican, and that's the reason why I continue to vote that way. But again, that does not mean that I dismiss any racism or any concerns of some of the rhetorics that, either coming from the right side or the left. The thing is, policies do matter. And when it comes to policies, Democrat Party is failing the American people.
Well, again, I want to, and I appreciate what you're saying, and we want to keep this. I don't have a problem. I'm not a hypocrite. I don't have a problem standing up for what party I'm a member of or anything. This is not as much a partisan discussion as it is about racism in America.
Yeah.
As we point out racism, listen, Daisy's a Black Republican. She's saying that racism does in fact exist on the Democratic side. I understand that. There's no covering that up. And we're not making it part. It just so happened that the right is the one where most of this racist rhetoric and the policies are being propagated. For instance, and we'll transition. You're talking about as a Haitian brother in this country. I was appalled when I moved to South Florida 25 years, 20, whatever it was, down here to find out that there was a wet foot, dry foot policy, which basically should be a white-black policy. If you're white from Cuba, you land, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're Haiti, you don't make it. So right now, I mean, and this is almost unconscionable. I respect you guys' loyalty to your policy, to your party, but it's you cannot defend this governor who has gone overboard trying to emulate the former president and really exposed and embarrassed us as a state with his racist policies. Now he has people on horses that if any Haitians get off a boat, they're beating them back into the water. At least
this is under Biden's administration. That I know you're talking about the horses and the whipping. I just want to let you know that Biden's the president, and this happened under his watch. So
the governor of Florida did this. The governor of Florida did this. Biden had nothing to do with
you mentioned the horses, though, the whipping and stuff like that.
It is the governor of Florida.
That's the state of Florida. I heard his speech.
And
I called my senator on it.
Okay,
so I'm breaking my neck and I can't find that.
This is clarify for the viewers, to clarify. Okay, I understand. There's statements that was said by the governor of Florida, but then you also mentioned the horses. That happened in, to my understanding, in Texas, which
you're coming right here in Florida. Let's
clarify. There was no horses or anybody
that's true
in Florida.
No. Yes, they are. I think you need to
clarify that was actually Border Patrol that was under Biden's administration. I just want to clarify that.
No.
That was with Biden, but also, look, as Republicans and as a Black Republican, and that's what I said earlier. I've been asked why I won't get out, because I know the Republican Party. I know when it was decent and when it stood up for right and still was conservative. I know some of the things the Democratic Party has done. But I am not going to defend what is wrong. And some of the decisions that DeSantis is making is wrong. He told us, welcome everybody from Israel who was having a problem, and turn right around and put this out by the Haitian. You can't defend that as a Black Republican.
You cannot.
I tell everybody, first of all, I'm Black first. I'm a Republican, but I'm Black first. And every Black Republican ought to understand that these folks will throw us under the bus at any given moment. You better stand up and say who you are and fight for your people.
So again, I think it's good that we have Daisy, who, she got a little seniorhood on most of us. But I think it's good that she's sharing this with us. But this is not about party. I think she's saying this to us, but you cannot defend this governor. So let's transition to him now. I had a video that we can't find. He has gutted Black history teaching in the state. And I know what you're going to say. That's AP class. No, I just retired from the school system. Teachers are not touching the subject because you see the retribution that has come to them.
Right.
Yeah, Chris, I want you to respond. Let me just finish setting it up. Black history, everything. So, Madam Producer, show those two posters, please. One is the state of Florida, how Black people in Florida see Florida now, since we have this governor who wants to show himself. You may not understand that. It shows Florida, and it shows all of that has all of the racist attacks when it was chic to do it back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, and it shows all of the places where those attacks occurred. It says that's how Black Floridians see Florida now, and we didn't see that like that under Claude Kirk. We didn't. Rick Scott, we didn't even see that under him. This governor has found it chic to emulate the former president and come in and go way to the right and introduce racist policies. And then he has gutted our history being taught. You see this? This is a white brother holding a poster saying there are no benefits to slavery. Go ahead, Chris. I know you want to respond to that. I'm going to ask Donnie and Pastor Barilla to respond to you.
Well, I was surprised that Donald Trump, and I don't mean to keep calling his name out, but he had 3 judges appeal that woke act because he knew it was wrong.
What was that he had him appeal?
The woke act.
The walkout.
Oh, with the Florida,
Woke.
Oh.
that just happened here in Florida. That was not
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, Trump
Right,
was
but listen,
he can't do that. He has no power. He's a civilian.
Yeah,
Like
no power. He had nothing to do with that.
right. But what I'm saying was, he did speak out against it though.
Well, we're talking about DeSantis now. He has the power. He's damaging us.
I understand that, and don't think that Trump is in line with that. Don't think that, because we all know that DeSantis is wrong.
Yeah. But
I'm against that.
Trump's not a part of it. We're talking about this whole aura that Trump had. I mean, that DeSantis has cast over this state.
Let me give y'all something. I'm sure.
I got to get Donnie and Pastor Burrell in, but go ahead, Daisy.
Yeah, I got to say this. We talk about DEI and affirmative action and all that, and DeSantis plays that game on us, and some of us Black Republicans done fell behind it and say, oh, yeah, we don't need DEI, we don't need this. You don't ever hear them saying anything about affirmative action when it comes to athletics and any of these PWIs. It's no affirmative action with football, basketball, or any sports, because they don't want to do anything, and they will not do anything to stop our Black players from coming to these schools, because it puts money in their pocket. It fills up their stadium. It fills up their arena. If we're going to talk about DEI, that have DEI all over and say you got to have no more diversity in athletics, no more equity in athletics, no. We are hypocritical, and Donald Trump is hypocritical. And if you want to see DEI and all that go out the door, let every Black player at every PWI, at University of Florida, Florida State, all of them say, we ain't going to practice, we ain't going to play, and see if it doesn't change tomorrow. We got to be real about what this country is all about, and tell the truth about what DeSantis is doing. You don't care about that. I'm going to tell this last thing. At Clemson University, when that coach decided that Black lives matter, and he came out against them and made all those statements, but those football players said they weren't going back to practice no more, they weren't going to play. The next week, you saw the head football coach at Clemson lead his players out, talking about Black lives do matter. We can do something as a people if we ever get our act together and say all of it's wrong. Republicans, Democrats, and all of them. We ain't going to be loyal to nobody but ourselves and what is going to advance us as a people.
Pastor Dozie, I want to say this. Daisy, I do agree with you that, as Black community, we do need to put the community first before politics or policy, or politics. I'll say politics.
I want to thank you. I want to, because our audience is what makes this show go. Even though I keep giving this company free advertisement, drinking water out of their cup, I'm gonna do something about it. Max said that that was unethical. It was unethical. Not only unethical, but it was unethical, but it was not criminal. Okay, that's a lot of what we're seeing. We heard the former president make a comment today talking about people good on both sides. He said that a few years ago. Then he called people animals today and spoke language that could provoke violence. Well, that has happened. Okay, Henry's saying we have been unwavering. We've been the most forgiving people on the planet. I think people know that about Black people. What we've tried to do, and Brother Ludwig, as a person from the Jewish community, I think you would have an appreciation for this. What we see going on in the Gaza Strip right now is I think, and that's another discussion, maybe an overreaction, but it's consistent with Israel saying never again. The Holocaust will never happen again. Right. And that's what we're saying today as Vanguard, saying we cannot let racism overtake this country again, because it was devastating to us. And this governor has gone overboard, and this thing of taking Black history out of schools And then this DEI policy, the affirmative action policy that's kind of nationwide by this Trump-inspired Supreme Court. But the DEI, I'm glad Daisy brought that up, because this whole show was inspired when I read Emmett Smith's article last week, where he came down on his alma mater, University of Florida, go Gator, where he came down on the beloved Gator because they gutted the whole DEI off. Everybody in there, they sent them packing. FSU will be next, UCF, my alma mater, everybody else will be doing that because it comes from Tallahassee's Board of Education under this governor. And I want you all to defend that before Pastor Burrell and Donnie Dutch will respond to you all.
I'll say this: like, I'm not here trying to defend what's wrong. Let's just be clear. But what I want to say, what's wrong is what I've seen happen is a lot of the LGBTQ issues, or I guess component to the DEI, has been under the umbrella of I guess Black history or Black education, and I want to say that that's probably the reason why you see some of the push against DEI, but you didn't see that there's no issue with Black history up until the LGBTQ community started tacking on themselves to Black issues, or what they call intersectionality, where they try to combine the two. And so whereas I'll say they're hijacking that issue. So whereas where it's kind of, I'm not defending what's wrong, but it kind of maybe an overreaction, whatever the case may be. But that's the reason why some of these push against DEI is because the LGBT community wants to push their agenda. Again, I'm not against the LGBT community, but there's concerns by parents that they don't want that education to be taught at that level at a young age. So that's some of the reason why, again, you probably see some of that, but it's not directly, I believe, directly towards the Black community or Black history. It's just that because of the LGBT community has been very, I would say, successful in tacking on their issue with the Black community. That's why you see some of the things that's happening right now.
I promise you, I didn't intend to talk as much tonight, and I can pick up on your spirit that you're a darn good brother. I just feel bad that you are forced to try to defend that foolishness. I'm a retired teacher, recent retired teacher, like Daisy and Pastor Burrell. I'm a product of the Black school system before integration, before Charlotte, Mecklenburg County decision to integrate schools, where we were taught this is the foolishness that Tallahassee has passed down, and I would pray that you would restock your arsenal with more real facts than that, and not push that on you. If you walked in your house tonight and you had a candle that was on a table that was burning, would you bring a water hose and hose down your whole house?
But here's the thing: you couldn't deny the fact of what I just stated earlier.
That was not true.
Wait, I gotta.
Go ahead.
I gotta speak. I have a very good friend who is Black and is gay, and he understands the issue of intersectionality, significantly. And it bothers me when we generalize so much and we automatically undercut a whole concept because it's politically advantageous. I want to go back to, the question: are racist policies, political moves, or a nod to America's past? I think it can be both. I think it can both at the same time. There's in the last few months, I have learned about what's called intergenerational trauma, and intergenerational trauma can actually change the function of genes within one's DNA. So that the trauma that happens to a previous a mother, that trauma can get passed on in the biology of the body and in the eggs, which later become fertilized. And that trauma can be passed on from one generation to the next. There's several books. One's called My Grandmother's Hands. Another one is called It Didn't Start With You. In My Grandmother's Hands, they talk about white intergenerational trauma, especially European whites. Okay? For instance, in England, they started drawing and quartering and decapitating people in 1240. According to the author of the book, that continued until 1820, 600 years. And these were public displays, much like lynchings were public displays. And they talk about how that traumatized people, and that unfortunately, many white Europeans carry the trauma of previous generations. And when the whites came to the colonies, many of them were fleeing persecutions, and they had been victimized, whether that was politically, economically, or religiously. And the poorer whites had been victimized by the wealthier whites. And the victims, once they became colonists, became victimizers. They continued the process, sort of like a child who is abused often becomes an abuser. And for a long time, before the concept of white, the divisions within the white community were more ethnic, in the separation of the Irish, the Germans, the Swedes, the Italians, etc. And it wasn't until, I don't remember exactly in the book when they talked about how the when those divisions between the ethnic groups broke down and they suddenly became white, it increased the victimization of minorities and blacks. And that's part of what's going on. I think that part of what's going on with so many of these people who are filled with racism and anger is they're carrying that trauma that's never been resolved. And they just don't believe that whites and minorities can both thrive. And the fear that, whether, the replacement theories of Jews or minorities, the fear is among many white people that they're going to lose their power. They don't believe in shared power.
That's right.
And until we realize that immigrants aren't animals, which was a statement by our former president over this weekend, go to Forbes magazine and look up their beliefs on DEI, and there's a website where you can find 15 reasons why DEI is so important. Are racist policies political moves? Yep. It gets votes. Is it a nod to the past? It sure is. And until we can get to the point where we can value each other without with the understanding that we can share power, whoever we are and whatever we are, until we get to that point, this is going to continue, sadly. And there are some people who like to maintain that division because it keeps them in power. Read the book, I've been a pastor, but I'm liberal. Read the book, The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory, about evangelical extremism.
Yeah.
It's a scary book.
Amen.
Written by the author from Atlanta Magazine that believes that there are many within the white evangelical community who want to create a Christian theocracy. I call them the Christian Taliban.
Wow.
Okay? Jesus did not come to institute political power. That's what Palm Sunday and Holy Week is all about.
That's right.
He didn't come to institute political power. And I believe that churches that seek to institute political power are clearly not following the gospel. And
Well,
I've preached, I'll quit.
Dr. Bonner, let me make a just this.
Please do. And we're clapping for what you said, and we're going to ask the response.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, I want to make a brief statement. My life has revolved around the fact that even when I wanted to forget racism, even I could never pretend that it didn't exist, but it comes back and smacks you in the face again.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I began college in 1977 at Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. At that time, there were 3,000 students there. 150 of us were Black, and that included all the athletes too. So that's 5%. There were white students who would speak to me on the campus, go 15 minutes off campus to Haynes Mall, to the shopping mall, and they would see you at the mall and pretend that you didn't exist, or they didn't know you. They could speak to you on campus, but couldn't speak to you at the mall. Pastor Vaughn and I love the game of golf. You go to pay your money. We're glad to have y'all boys here today. I'm 64, soon be 65 years old. I've been married almost 40 years. I got 4 children. I got 7 grandchildren. I ain't nobody's boy.
Amen.
So I'm my boy. Okay? I take my money and give it to you in your hand. You return and throw mine back at me. Okay? I want to forget racism. I want to know that it exists and stuff. But every time I go to sleep at night and the Lord wakes me up in the morning, I'm slapped in the face with example after example after example after example of how these things just keep happening. So we got Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said this: we'll either live together as brother or we'll perish as fools. And right now we're seeming to want to accept that perish mentality.
There's a background. Somebody could. Okay. There's a background. I'm asking if this in your. Could you mute yourself or where that background is coming from? Doc, both of you all just really summed up, and I'm going to give my guess. I know you all. I'm glad. Well, no, I know Chris. I'm glad to meet Brother Love, and we're going to hear them. And anybody who wants to make a brief, because the clock is right up against our heads, just a brief remark on the way out the door. Just go ahead and speak your piece. Maybe 30 seconds tops.
You're muted.
Daisy's muted.
Hello?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the topic, I have to get that book and read it for myself to understand exactly what you're talking about. And right now, I'm kind of at a loss of words of what to say at this point until I read that book and see it for myself, honestly.
Let me ask you this, Chris. I mean, I know that book is going to have some things that will be enlightening to all of us because I've not read it either. But on the ends of tonight's discussion, I mean, what can we do to, Pastor Real, somebody, if you would just help us with that background sound, I don't know where that is. If you could just help us mute that out. Pastor Burrell gave an example of us going to the golf course and somebody, well, I don't get called boy because I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to intimidate anybody physically, but I'm going to let them know I'm too big, ugly, and old to be your boy. I'm only Hazel and Dozelle's boy, nobody else's boy. And I'm going to correct that in a heartbeat. But I just want to know what we do to filter up to our leaders. Yeah, I think Donnie stated it best. It is both. It's both to play into a political base, and it's also to because there is a sense of racial entitlement and fear, and we want to go back to where we don't feel that the whole abortion issue. And I hate Ingrid's not here, guys. I hope she'll be on next time. And you guys are cordially invited back week after next. We ask what's the fascination with Trump in spite of all of these things. But what I'm saying is we need to be able to, I don't care if it's whoever it is, if Biden, Trump, whoever it is, we need to be able to filter up to them that America is no place for us we cannot go back. And if this is what you're going to need to do to be elected, I can't be a part. Not only will I not be a part, but I'm going to break my neck to make sure many others understand what you're doing also. Anybody else want to just pass the book to just give a brief outro?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you do it in 30 seconds, Daisy, please?
Yes, I just want to recommend 2 books for my young Republicans. One is Cass by Isabel Wilkerson.
Yes.
The other is Teaching Black History to White Folks by Dr. Leonard Austin. I just did that class at a predominantly white church, and it was phenomenal. But I think it will help my 2 young, coming from an older Republican, it will, if you read those books, you may get a better understanding of where I come from as a Republican. And for all of you who want to read it, Cass and both of them are great books.
Amen. Amen. Donnie?
I'm honored to be a part of the group. Thanks for all the conversation. You all stretch me a little bit. I hope that I've given you some food for thought as well, and that together, whatever persuasion we have, that we move toward the kind of unity that we desire. And I'll get preachy for just a second. I remember one of my favorite passages in the book of Acts is where Peter says that God shows no partiality. God does not discriminate. God makes no distinctions, is what that means. Anyone who, it says fears God, but I believe the word fear there means has reverence and awe. Anyone who has reverence and awe for God and does what is right, whoever they are, whatever their color, whatever nationality, they are acceptable to God, and we need to get to that point where we see that. So thanks for the opportunity, and bless you, Brother Dozell.
Bless you, Donnie. Bless you, Donnie. Brother Burrell, closing comment?
You're muted.
You're muted. We can't hear you.
Still muted. Oh.
I'm thankful for Brother Christopher and Brother. Pronounce your first name for me, Brother Luquin.
Luquin or Luctwin.
Luctwin. Yeah, I thank God for these 2 brothers tonight.
Amen.
I've been on here with you before. I didn't know Sister Daisy was a Republican. That means she knows Dorsey Miller.
Very well. We started the Black Republican Club in Broward
County. Amen. So I'm just saying, I pray that there'll come a time that we'll move beyond these political labels, because first and foremost, I'm a Christian.
Amen.
And that's what I've been able to do. I challenge people according to the word, You come in with some okie doke if you want, you know. We don't need any teaching any history. We don't need DEI. I tell you what, Moses may have lived in Pharaoh's palace, but he never denied his ethnicity.
Amen.
He never did. Never. But now we just celebrated St. Patrick's Day yesterday. Wear green in Chicago. They turned the whole river green.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, if you didn't wear no green, somebody pinched you and all of that. Well, St. Patrick. But the minute you say black something, oh no, we can't say that. We don't need none of that. Yeah. I'm finished those hell.
That offends people. That's the premise that the governor says that offends people. Bro, look, thank you all so much. I want to give you and Bro Christopher a chance. You were talking about the Bible, Pastor Anthony. There was supposed to be another sister on with us tonight, Sister Ingrid, and hopefully she'll come on with another discussion. She said she was bringing her Bible to the discussion, and hopefully she will.
If I may, yes.
Go ahead. I don't know what happened, but go ahead, guys.
At first, I just want to say thank you for Pastor for allowing me to be part of this discussion. It's obviously very important, and I do want for the viewers to understand that. Look, I understand what's wrong. I'll definitely challenge my party. I do believe that it's important for Black conservatives to be active in the party and to encourage those who are in leadership to do better and to also to ensure that everybody is impacted by the policies that we make. With that being said, that I understand that our differences as Americans doesn't divide us. You know, we all have unique backgrounds and life experiences, but there's a common ground if we choose to speak it. And that's the spirit that I want to leave with. And that I hope that regardless of which party that we're in, that we understand is about the people, regardless of our ethnicity, regardless of our religion. And with that, I just want to say thank you. And I hope everybody has a great night.
Thank you. Bro Chris, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
You have any?
Thank you for allowing me to be on the show tonight, and I agree with Brother Luck. There are many diversities and many things that we see that are wrong, and I pray to God that we can come together one day on a mutual ground and be as one, because at this point, things are just not where they need to be, and there's not enough understanding to what's going on. And things need to be addressed, need to be handled properly according for the betterment of the people in this country.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
We're going to close out.
Can you give me their telephone numbers?
Yeah, you can talk to them in the studio once we close out.
Okay.
I want to close the segment out with a segment we haven't done in a while, and it's called As I See It. We want to close tonight's show. Firstly, I want to thank all of my guests, and especially Brother Ledwick and Brother Christopher, because the show started out. I just wanted to hear. I went to the chairman of the Republican Party to supply a guest to speak on the racism issue. That's what this show tonight was about, and he supplied 3 guests, and I'm so grateful. This was not supposed to be 3 against 3. Actually, Pastor Burrell was in to take this mantle over for me tonight, but I praise God for the strength to hang in here. I want to thank Dozie and Donley, because your seniorly advice, along with your scholasticism, the recommend books that not posit one side, but books that talks about unity, bringing us together, not as just Americans, but as people of God. And I'm so grateful to you all. I'm always going to be grateful to my golf buddy, Pastor Burrell. We're traveling buddies. We're just friends. Thank you for bringing your vast array of knowledge and experiences. And to our brothers, thank you all again. As I see it tonight, we were supposed to discuss. We came together to talk about racism and how can we get a handle to identify if it's politically motivated or really to see America go back to its shameful past. I think we kind of touched on that, but we kind of discovered along the way that there's a clear division. One party, one philosophy leans closer or allows greater for that than the other. But I think we resolved tonight, and this is what we wanted to do, that it's not acceptable on either side, either political side, either ideological side, either charismatic candidate for one side or on the other. It's about us being God's people and first in Americans. I'm gonna leave you with this. Crazy as it may sound, from the most unlikely of source, it said right wing. Well, I'm on camera. Right wing, left wing. It makes both wings to fly, and that's what it takes. It takes all of us coming together. It's said by the great Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson. We're signing off tonight, Dialogue with Dozie. I hope to have some of these guests back on 2 weeks from now when we do this, when we do look at President Trump and ask America, what is it about him after all of this, the craziness that he has allowed to happen? How do you still support him? We're going to ask that question in 2 weeks. I have to do mental therapy. This has been a heavy show. Next week, we're going to have some fun. For those who remember the television series in the 1980s and 90s, Dallas, which was rebooted back in the early 2000s. We're going to take a look back as we did Inside Christmas. We looked inside the movie This Christmas during the holidays. We're going to look back at the TV series Dallas and do an inside look for our regular formatted show next week. Then in 2 weeks, we'll be back here again dealing with the aforementioned show. We love you all. We appreciate your Dialogue with Dozie. Madam Producer, you're the best. See y'all next Monday night.